Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So it's time for those 1 minute book recs. This is where we go over all the books we read in the past week with 1 minute synopsises of each book. So,
you okay?
No, not really. Okay, it's we're doing a little later. It's snowing outside. I'm a little thrown off. We're okay. So,
I'm getting so much snow and that my hair is not doing so well because I was outside building a snowman. We built a snowman that my son is in 5th grade and the snowman was like as tall as him. Like we're getting a lot of snow.
Yeah.
And my hair is just not happy.
Yeah, I mean, I keep looking out the window because we were supposed to be getting a ton of snow and we don't.
I should have gone and got the straightener and like re-straightened it again.
Your
But
hair
this
is
is what
fine.
it does when I don't straighten it. It just like and it gets wet a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So.
All
right, so before we get started.
Well, you should hit the subscribe button so you can hear more about my bad hair. And books.
And books. Books is good. So, okay. So how was your reading week?
I was very temperamental.
Same.
I had some books that I really did not like at all, and I had a couple I really liked.
I had several that I started and went, you know what? I can't do this. This isn't working for me this week. I'm going to wait till next week. But then I felt like I wasted like time reading these books that weren't working that I could have been into another book. So I was very finicky this week. But so how many books did you get in?
7.
Okay. I got 8, but I'm not going to talk about one till next week, and one was a duet. So I have 6. Sorry.
This is really getting annoying.
Sorry. I know when I was counting them last night, trying to figure out, I was like, oh, yeah. If I talked about all 8, that would be a different story, but, you know.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So what was your first book?
My first book was Breakaway by Vanessa Sheets. It's got the glare on there. All right. So this is, sorry, my mouse was in the wrong spot for the timer. This is about Sophia and Noah. Sophia is basically raising her younger brother. I believe she's a senior in high school, and her mom has really just taken a turn for the worse after their Nona died, and she has become like, she's just pretty reckless in her life and often has men over and is, consumed by addiction and things like that. And so Sophia is basically left to raise her younger brother, and she works very hard to make sure that everything stays on the up and up. So because her brother was once taken by CPS and she doesn't want that to ever happen again. So she works very hard to keep things on the up and up. And one day her mom brings home a new guy, and the new guy's stepbrother comes to pick him up, and that's Noah. And from there, Sophia and Noah start a very odd relationship because he doesn't like his stepbrother and he's not impressed at all with like what's going on, and they kind of start a relationship. I loved Hope Rising by Vanessa Sheets. It was incredible. This was her first book, and so it's not the same as Hope Rising. There was a lot happening in this book, and it may have been my mood, but it was just, I felt like there was too many plots. It was still good. I rated it a 4, but it just wasn't Hope Rising. Hope Rising is just so amazing. And then that's just my own bias comparing the two.
Understandable. We all do it. It's all good.
Yeah.
So the first book that I picked up this week, I really have got to stop trusting other recommendations in groups that I don't fully trust. But this was recommended because it was a vampire, and the vampire does something. I can't remember what it was, but it was supposed to be this really great book. Okay. So this is Tethered by Elena R. Galea. Okay, I think I said that right. Hopefully I did. So this is about Luna. She's human. I didn't realize this was more of a fantasy world versus a paranormal world, but she's a princess. She's human-ish because her dad was married to, he had several wives, the king, and one of them was a fairy. So there are some fae and fairy here in this world. And she is being handed over in marriage to the Dark Prince, who is the prince of the another realm or another whatever kingdom, and they're vampire. She goes, she meets him. He's not as dark and crazy as they say he is, but his mom is. His mom is nuts. And she forces them into this bonding ceremony. But the person who bonds them, because it's like this ancient little ceremony and they get tattoos and the whole thing, the person who bonds them also tethers them together, which is a huge no-no. It's a thing. Nobody's ever been tethered together. Or if they have, it's never great because he can't even walk down the hall without both of them being in excruciating pain. I gave it 3 stars. The first half I was kind of into it, and then I just got bored after that. And I don't know if it was my mood, because I think for me, fantasy has really got to grip me, and it's really hard for fantasy to grab hold. But with it being, I didn't realize it was fantasy going into it, but paranormal typically can, but no, it didn't. I don't know. It could have been me. So I tried.
Okay. Well, my next one is an ALC that I have. It is the Vegas Aces Bases Loaded series that I have been working on. And so the 4th book is coming out on Tuesday. So that is my next rec. So Bases Loaded by Lisa Suzanne. And this is Alexa and Danny's story. So if you've missed the other 3 books that I've talked about really briefly, Alexis is a singer. Danny is a pro baseball player. They meet one time at a baseball game that she is singing at. They both develop strong feelings for each other, and they start a year-long friendship that eventually develops into more. But Alexis has a dad who is also her agent, who has really manipulated her into signing contracts and basically runs her entire life along with her manager. Or I might have that mixed up. The other guy might be the manager. Sorry. And the 2 of them have just really got her backed into a corner, but she really, really has fallen for Danny. And so basically she has to decide if she's going to choose love or if she's going to choose everything that she's ever worked for to stay on the path that her dad has her on. So this is narrated by Avery Reed and Scott Rose. They do a fantastic job, and I am loving this series. So I've given it all of them 5 stars so far, and we have 1 more to go after this one.
Okay. All right. So I picked up an Omegaverse next. Now this Omegaverse is a trilogy, and I just read the first 2. The first one is a novella, and then the second one is a full-length novel. I did not get to number 3, but I have the whole friggin' book here, so we're going to hold up the whole friggin' bind up. It's huge. So this is the first book is Pack Origin, and then the second one is Pack, oh my gosh, I read it like 3 days later, Pack Bound. So okay, this is by Jessa Wilder and Kate King. So we've met Jessa Wilder a couple of times at some of these events, but this is my first Jessa Wilder book. So this is a Why Choose. This is about Bliss. She is in the foster care system. She's believed to be a beta at this time. And she has a connection with her 4 foster brothers who are all alphas. I think one might be a beta. I don't know. I kind of lost that. There was a dog here. But they're kind of like they go in and comfort her at night when she has bad dreams. But she thinks she's a beta, even though there's an attraction between all of them. And then as she hits her 17th birthday, they realize that no, she's not a beta, she's an Omega, which then they end up calling the institute that comes and gets her because all the Omegas go to this one institute. She feels betrayed. And then the second book starts where basically she's at an auction and they go there to try and get her back because you have to buy your Omegas. And she's supposed to feel betrayed. It's a whole thing. I didn't feel very betrayed. I mean, I did feel the betrayal, but okay, so here's the deal. When you have a Why Choose, and I know you're not looking at me, but when you
I was just turning the timer off and coming back.
Cool. So I gave the first book 4 stars. It was a great start. There's nothing that really happens in the first book. We just see it set up when they're younger, what happens 5 years down the road, or 4 or 5 years down the road. And then we get into the next book. By the time I started, it was like halfway through the second book, I still did not know who was who. Like, this is my thing with Why Choose. If you do not, you have to set up your characters in a way that I don't get confused as to who is who. I can't even tell you any of their names. Like, I know hers was Bliss, but I cannot tell you their names. They're very forgettable characters. And I'm like, okay, I know one of them was like really blonde, which, and I only know that because it doesn't work for me in romance. But, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to continue because I just kind of I don't know who's who. I just hate it. That's why I love Grace McGinty. She's got her guys all like, there's a connection between each one and you can feel it and you understand who's who. This doesn't work for me. Yeah, it was a disappointment, kind of.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I mean, it was okay while I was listening to it. I still am confused. Very confused. Okay.
Next.
What do you got?
Okay. So I've been on a Julie Ann kick.
Yes.
I listened to something that I read her a couple of times before. I was thinking I just started, but when I was looking back at her backlist, I realized that I've actually read a couple of her books. So most recently back in the fall, but before that I'd read something of hers a while ago, and I don't know why it didn't register with me. But anyways, I am now on a Julie Ann kick because I love the angst that she brings. So I picked up If This Is Love by Julie Ann. So this is Indy and Milo's story, and Indy was adopted when she was little, and a lovely lady named Ruthie has been raising her, and then Ruthie dies when she is about 10, and that leaves her with Ruthie's husband, Fletcher, and Fletcher apparently was only a nice man because Ruthie was in his life, and once Ruthie's gone, he just is just an awful bastard. And Milo is their farmhand who has like a little apartment out in the barn, and he basically gets put in charge of taking care of Indy, but he doesn't mind. Like, Indy and him form this like very close bond. And then once Indy is, that magic age of 17, 18, he starts to think slightly differently of her, and she has had a crush on him because he's been her whole world for all of these years. But Milo is getting married to someone else, and Milo doesn't, that was my time. Milo doesn't want to, but Fletcher has arranged this marriage to his niece and wants him to marry her, and he is holding something over his head that is forcing this marriage to happen. This book was really heartbreaking. I cried like almost through the entire first half. And I really, really liked it. It was like a solid 5 for me. I don't know why, but at the end, I just really needed Milo to grow a pair of balls and be like, F you, Fletcher, and risk it a little bit more than he did. And that started to bother me. And I know there were reasons, and people love this book. I still love it. It's a solid 4, but I just needed him to man up a little bit more. And again, I was very temperamental in my reading. So
something must have been in the air. It was knowing the snow was coming or something this week.
I don't
know. Yeah.
So yeah, I still loved it though.
Okay. All right. Okay. So for my next book, I went back to Eve Bale's Alpha, Cold-Blooded Alpha series, because the third book came out on audio, and that is Stone Cold Alpha. So I picked this one up. I listened to the audio. I was like, the day it was released, I was all excited. So this is about Savannah and Jeremy. So Savannah witnessed something pretty horrific when she was younger, and she was adopted by the pack that was in the first 2 books. And she is like a sibling to the alpha of that pack. But she is still dealing with this traumatic event, and she's become a model, and she just kind of suppresses everything. She has horrible nightmares, but she suppresses it, and she just kind of runs literally from everything. And a while back, a few years ago, she'd had a one-night stand with this guy who is her fated mate. Like, she knew that he was going to be her alpha, but she has been on the run from him for several years because she runs from everything. And that is Jeremy. And at the beginning of this book, Jeremy has caught up with her, and he is not letting her run this time. They're trying to reestablish this pack, and he's not going to let her run from him or anything else. And that is kind of the back and forth between the two of them. So I gave this one 3.5 stars.
You were right on it. Every time I'm looking up to change it, you were right there.
Cool.
Go
wow.
you.
Look at me. All right. So I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did not enjoy it as much as the first two. And I just listened to that second one like a week or two ago. And I kind of felt a little lost in the beginning of this one. I was like, who is this again? You know, it took a hot minute. And there really wasn't a lot of conflict or anything that happened in this book. It was just their kind of story of them being together. And I'm like, okay. So did I enjoy it? Sure. I was working at the warehouse. I wasn't paying attention, but I listened to it. So it was just kind of mundane, you know, whatever. Will I continue on? Yeah, but I don't, this one just wasn't compared to the first two, it wasn't the greatest. So for me, it could be for somebody else. So, all right.
So my next book has been on my TBR for actually a couple of years. I got this book several years ago in a dark romance box for Christmas. Mm-hmm. I've been very excited about reading it. Like I said, I put it on my TBR many times, and most recently, just a couple months ago, I was so excited.
Uh-oh.
Because it's like right up my alley with like the daddy stuff and age gap. So very excited. I decided to listen to the audio because I didn't want to crack the spine of my book.
Same.
And I just want to know why does anybody like this book? I didn't like it at all. It was awful.
What's the book?
Daddy's Angel by K.A. Knight. And I am sure there's some of you out there that like this book. And I am sorry, it did not work for me. It just, I didn't understand it. You can switch me over and I can complain, or I can complain to your face. I don't.
Well, I mean,
I'll set the timer to eliminate further complaining.
I could have told you, but okay.
All I wrote in my notes, like literally, was, can you see that? Why? I gave it 2 stars. I was so bored. I didn't know what was the point? I knew what was happening, but like, what was the point? So her and her boyfriend are together. The boyfriend's dad instantly is attracted to her, doesn't want her being brought around because of the way she looks in her red bikini. And it just irritated me. Like, I love these types of books, but he is the father. Like, these work because there's this like dynamic of like, he can't betray his son, but he loves her so much he has to. Like, that is what makes these books phenomenal. He didn't give a crap. He's like, just don't bring her around. I don't like her. Keep her away type thing. And then the second his son breaks up with her, all they do is they do it. And it was so pointless. And again, I am really sorry if you liked it. It just was not for me. Like, sealed the deal of how much I didn't like this book. Again, I apologize. I'm sure the narrator is a fantastic person. I'm sure K.A. Knight is. I feel guilty, but it was 2 stars, and you can find this book on my Pango shop.
So I've said it twice now. I mean, I've said it several times. I've tried that author several times, and her books, if I had to make I hate would like burn in an instant, it's the ones she's written. They're horrible. Sorry, I'm gonna stand on that hill. I don't normally talk about authors like that. Her writing is
it's not for us, apparently.
Not for us. Characters are obnoxious. Not for us.
Yeah, I love that forbidden part. Like, Birthday Girl is a great example. Like, he wrestles with that so much because he doesn't, like, him and his son don't even have a great relationship, and he doesn't want to do that to his son. And so that's what makes those stories so good, though, is it's like, it doesn't matter these other relationships and how much you love and care for somebody else. This love is that intense and that strong.
And I don't,
this was just lust.
Yeah. Personally, this is just my personal preference, but I don't need a ton of smut in a book if the scenes have to be propelling the story forward. I'm not reading it for that. I'm not reading it for the sex scenes. And when it's a book like that, it just feels like that's what they're there for, is just for that.
I don't even know that they really even talked to one another. Like, there was nothing. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why did they even like each other? She was like out for some revenge, but what was his point? Like,
Exactly.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
missed it.
Yeah.
I missed the boat on this book, and I know I'm not alone because the ratings on this one are not super high, but I kind of thought like a lot of times these types of books will get knocked because people don't like that trope. And
Yeah.
so they'll read it and then knock it. I
Right.
love this trope. This one just didn't work for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And again, if you like K.A. Knight, you can find this book in my Pango shop.
Okay. So the next book that I picked up was a Devney Perry book. I can always count on Devney Perry for a good time, and a book that I enjoyed, and this was no different. So I read The Brazen. I have to say, I thought it was a different book because I got one off of Pango because, you know, credits and all, right? So I thought it was Crossroads, and then I read this one, and then I went to go grab the book to use it for our video. And I was like, that's not the right book. So, but that's okay. It was a great time. I'm not mad about it. So this is The Brazen. This is, again, that's why I was like, why is this the third book in her Calamity Montana series? But it's a special edition. I couldn't quite figure it out. It's because I grabbed the wrong book. So anyhow, this is the third book in her Calamity series, Calamity Montana series. So this is about Carrington and Pierce. So Carrington has grown up in this little tiny town in Montana, and she doesn't want to work at her family's car dealership. Her parents have been offering that to her, but she wants to go out and make it on her own as a businesswoman. And so she has opened up several different businesses. She's flipped a few houses, but she has a few different projects going on out there. And she has borrowed money from her mentor to get that started. Well, the day before our book really gets going, we find out that she has asked for an extension on some loans, and her mentor believes in her so much that he's like, yeah, no worries. We'll take care of it when I get back to Montana, because he's out of state. And then all of a sudden we find out that he has been in a plane crash with several other people, and he has passed away. So then his grandson Pierce comes to town, and he owns the debts because the Pierce got the inheritance from his grandfather, and he's not willing to let her slide. Nothing's in writing, so he goes after her for the money. They hate each other. He's angry at her for something. He thinks that his grandpa was sleeping with her when they were just mentor and situation, and there's a lot of things going on there, and they get snowed in. They have to work their crap out. So loved it. I gave it a solid 4. Devney's always a 4 or 5 for me. I always love her stuff. So.
Okay. Who's Willa Nash?
Devney Perry.
That's Devney Perry also. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I think Willa Nash was some of her early works where she wrote under Willa Nash, and then she merged it all with Devney Perry. I'm not sure. I've never heard the story on that, but that's who that is.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So next I went to a Natasha Madison book because I figured that would get me back on track, and it did. So I read Hollywood Princess. And oops, I lost my timer. There we go. So this is Kelly, and Kelly is a singer. She is extremely well-loved, very popular, and she's getting ready to go on a world tour. So it is decided that she is going to need some security for this, and they decide to do around-the-clock bodyguard on her because she has a very overzealous fan. I guess we could probably call him a stalker. He's leaving her flowers and notes and things places that he should not have access to. And so she's a little freaked out once her team tells her what's going on, and they bring in Brian. And Brian is the one guy who's kind of shut her down before. And so feels a little awkward around him, isn't really sure how to perceive him, because she feels like there's some undeniable chemistry going on there. And like I said, he's shut her down before. So I really, really love this one. You have the romantic suspense going on with the stalkerish fan happening. And then you have him, I'm here to do a job. I'm not going to cross any lines because I cannot do my job. I just loved it. It was really good. So 4 stars. So if you like bodyguard romance, this one is for you.
Okay.
You will not find that book in my Pango store.
Okay. So the next book I picked up is one that you've read, and that was Stowaway Whirlwind by May Alder. Yes. So this one is about Marigold, or Goldie as she ends up getting called, and Davis. So Davis is a long haul trucker. He lives in Texas, and he is on his way home when he finds out that this very pregnant 19-year-old girl is stowing away in his truck. She's been there overnight. My thing was, they'd been driving for hours, and she hadn't peed. And when you're pregnant, that's like, well, I have no clue how she held it that long. But anyhow, so he talks her into letting him take her to Texas. That's the area she was going to see her dad. And so they're on the road. She's minutes away from rupturing. Like, literally, she's 9 months pregnant. She's about to have the baby.
I don't think we call it rupturing.
Yeah, she's about to rupture. So they head to Texas. When she does go into labor, some things happen at the hospital, which make him a little responsible for what's going on. And he decides he's just going to keep her, because why wouldn't you? And there's some breeding that happens. I mean, it's a whole thing. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a solid 4 stars. I do want to go back and read the first book of the series. So,
Me too.
Yeah, it was cute.
There were a few times where she irritated me a little bit, but I also kept thinking about the fact that she just had a baby. Her hormones are like all over the place.
Yeah. And she's only 19, and he's a lot older. There's a different age gap here. It's like a 15-year age gap. So yeah, it's a little on the insta love side, but it's explained and it makes sense for the book. So
yes.
Yeah. At least on his part. So yeah. Okay.
So next I decided to go back to Julie Ann, because she just had a new release this past week, or past week and a half, I guess it would be at this point. And that is The Apple Tree, which is the next book in the Sunday Morning series. So this is Eve, the sister from the Sunday Morning book. It's the middle sister. So, and as we know, Eve was a little rebellious from reading the Sunday Morning, if you read that one, which is confusing because the first book is Sunday Morning, and then this is the Sunday Morning series. So anyway, I digress and waste my time. So Eve is 18. She's graduated, but she doesn't really know what she wants to do yet. She's working at the motel. She still lives at home, and her parents are very strict, so she still has a curfew and all of those things. And kind of bugs her, but it is what it is. And they get new neighbors, and Kyle is hot, and she is very excited about this hot new neighbor. And being the fact that they are the preacher's family, they go over there to welcome him, and her and her sister get volunteered for babysitting his younger son, because he is the single dad. So he's about 10 years older than Eve, and his son is about 5. And from there, Eve and Kyle kind of form a friendship bond, and she kind of twists Kyle's arm a little bit into getting him to do things with her, like to teach her things like how to shoot a bow and arrow, how to fish, that sort of stuff. And they bond from there, and, things start to happen between the two of them. And she's only 18 and he's 28. He's also the new math teacher and high school football coach. So he doesn't, and his heart was shattered many years ago by his son's mom. And so he's not really sure about things. And Eve is also dealing with some stuff. So loved it so much. I rated it 5 stars.
Okay.
It was fantastic. It was good.
All right.
So good. So good. It really did the forbidden love aspect for me that I was craving.
Okay. So the next book that I jumped into, look, it had been a week, right? I'd only had like 2 books that were worth talking about. So I went back and did a reread. Now stop, it is not an Ice Planet Barbarian.
No, you're just like, I only had 2 books worth talking about. So sorry about this 1-minute book rec, peeps.
I mean, the Omegaverse one was okay. I just felt, it was just, I could not, I felt, so for me, when I'm having one of those weeks where I'm just having a hard time getting into things, I have to go back and reread one of my favorites. That way, it's kind of my own palate cleanser kind of thing to start fresh. So I did this last night. whatever it was. And I did a reread of Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon. So yes, it is Ruby, but it's not that Ruby. So this is her Fireblood Dragon series. It's the first one in that series. It's not as well known as Ice Planet Barbarians, but still just as good. So this is about Claudia and Kyle. And Claudia lives in Texas, and this is like 20 years or so after the rift. So this is post-apocalyptic, where a rift opened up in the sky and dragons came through and killed everybody because, you know, dragons. And there's two different kinds. There's red ones and there's gold ones. The gold ones are big. Like, they're these big ones, and they do the most damage. And Claudia has gotten in trouble because she's been scavenging, which is a huge no-no. And so the mayor of the town decides to put her in a red dress, and she's got red hair. And they take her to this tall building, and basically they're going to sacrifice her to the dragon. They've heard rumors that women can tame them, but every woman they put up there to try and tame this one big gold dragon has gotten eaten by the dragon. So they stick her up there, and lo and behold, the dragon lands, and he sees her, and he transforms into a human, or at least a male-ish, not necessarily human. He's a little gold, but I love this series. Is just as good to me as Ice Planet Barbarians. So,
what did you say you rated it? Did you say it?
You know, I think on Goodreads I have it set as a 3 or a 4 because I used to be very embarrassed about reading these books. But now I would still give it a 5. I'm just, they're just, I love them. You can't go into them too seriously. So, you know. And then I had another read, but we're going to talk about that next week. So
you would mark that you read it, but wouldn't mark it high because you were embarrassed.
But this was like back in 2020 before I even realized like the significance of that. Like I was an ignorant reader. I didn't know that it was very important. Then. I think I did. I think I've got it as a 4 right now. So.
But you're saying now it's a 5.
It probably is. I mean, I figure if I reread a book, I think this was like the 3rd time I read that one. It's probably higher than a 4.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah. Probably
all
should
right.
Go. Okay. What's your last book?
Well, I was wanting to end the week with a bang.
Oh, but are we?
But I ended it with a dud. And I am shocked because this is an author that I normally really enjoy. But there have been a few hit and misses with this author. So I guess this is just another miss.
Okay. All right.
And maybe other people feel differently. I don't know. Maybe I need to adjust my mood or attitude or something. But
maybe.
So that was Keep Her Safe by QB Tyler.
Okay.
I don't know what went wrong with this one for me. So I rated it a 3, which I feel like was generous. This is, it's another Bodyguard romance, and he is supposed to keep her safe. Her parents were killed, and a while ago, there was an accident or something. Honestly, I don't even know if I know why they died or how they died. Now that I'm thinking about it, I was bored. The book was boring, so the details aren't sticking with me. My apologies. I was just really bored. There was just nothing happening in it. He's supposed to keep her safe. She wants him. He doesn't want to be with her. Normally, I like this storyline, but it just felt really, really flat for me. I was super bored. I'm so sorry. I really like QB Tyler, so this book didn't work for me. I listened to it while I was doing some chores, and I found the female narrator, she sounded whiny during the scenes, and it was just not good. I didn't care for it.
Okay.
The rest of the time she was fine. Just during those scenes it came off really whiny, and I don't know. I just didn't care for it. But I know I'm not alone because the book doesn't have the best reviews. But yeah, I was just bored. I'm so sorry. I really like QB Tyler, so
yeah. But sometimes a book doesn't work even when we like the author. It's okay. It happens.
I just feel bad.
Yeah, I know.
So this was a couple of books to read and what not to read episode, apparently.
Sorry, guys. Your TBR won't grow that much this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oops.
Oh, or maybe you've had something on your TBR and you can take it off.
That's a positive.
And we're helping you.
We're taking one for the team.
Yes.
So next week we'll come back and hopefully have a whole bunch for you guys to add.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
All right. Well, there was our week.
So make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, where we normally bring way better book recommendations. We're sorry. Again, these can be helpful in knowing what you might not want to read. But if you've read one of these that we did not care for and you liked it, tell us, like, what was the sticking point that we missed that worked for you? And I'm sorry, I'm not going to go back and retry them, but maybe somebody else will read your comment and be like, oh, this sounds great.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully. And tune in this Wednesday. Do we have an author interview this Wednesday?
We do, so make sure that you check back on Wednesday. We will be interviewing Emma Scott. So excited. Again, we have just been knocking these out of the park.
Yep. So,
if I do say so myself.
She's over here tooting her own horn. Okay.
Yep. Toot, toot.
All right, we're going to go before this gets too crazy, guys.
Yeah, this is off the rails.
No.
Somebody hit the end button.
We'll see you in the next video.